Morning guys, it's me again, Ali, and we're on day 4 of Vlogmas. And today I want to talk about the Action 5 and the Action 6 and which one might be best for you if you're on the brink of upgrading or you just want to know a little bit more about the cameras. We're not going to go diving into the depths of the specs and what have you. There are plenty of videos out there, other channels you can look at, but I just want to have a quick talk about what some of the key differences are and maybe like a couple of things you should consider before upgrading or changing your Action camera. So first of all, and I think a big one for the Action 6 is the low light performance. So with this variable aperture, you can get much better low light performance, especially when you've got the macro lens attached. You can go all the way down to f2, which is going to allow a lot more light to come into the sensor, and you'll get much better performance when using it in darker scenarios at night time, dimly lit rooms, and so forth. So yeah, that is probably a big one. And you've got a bigger sensor as well. So you've got a square sensor at 1.1 over 1.1 inch, which is not quite as big as the Pocket Freeze sensor, which stands at 1 inch. So still, you're not going to get quite as good as performance out of that sensor compared to that sensor, should I say. But yeah, it's definitely, the sensor has been upgraded from the 5, and low light performance is a big consideration. If you find yourself shooting more often in low light situations, then the 6 is probably beats the 5 in that sense. So next up is you get more versatile framing with the Action 6. So if you shoot across platforms, like you post on social media, also on YouTube, then having the 6 is going to give you that little bit of extra versatility. With a square sensor, you can easily shoot square ratio 1:1, or you can shoot vertical as well, and you can also shoot landscape. So let's move on to stabilization, and there are reports that the stabilization has improved from the 5 to the 6. With a fine tooth comb, you should be able to notice, like in motion, that stabilization has improved a little bit, like when you're using lower shutter speeds. So if you like to stick to the 180-degree shutter rule and use ND filters, then yeah, there's a notable difference from the 5 to the 6 when it comes to stabilization. You're getting reduced amount of jitters. If you had those, especially when you're in a tree area, moving around, you'll see tiny little jitters around the edges of the framing of the trees and stuff like that. So, that's a nice shot, isn't it, with the backlit and the frost on the ground. But yeah, low light. Where am I? I lost my trailer for. Stabilization it has been improved from the 5 to the 6, and I've noticed it as well, especially when I'm using lower shutter speeds, that is a little bit smoother when you're in motion. So yeah, big one there to consider. And because you have this new variable aperture, you have more creative control with the Action 6 over the Action 5. So you now get, you can go all the way down to f2, especially if you have the macro lens, which allows you to get a little bit of extra depth of field. So hopefully behind me, it's a little bit of out of focus compared to if I had sort of the normal default lens attached, which I think is 2.8, variable still, but it starts at 2.8 instead of f2, which the macro lens does. And that's just going to give me a little bit of extra depth of field. So the sun is right on my face, nice and warm this morning. Warm sun, it's actually freezing cold. But yeah, more creative control with the macro lens. You also have the starburst mode when you have the macro lens attached, and that's constant f4 aperture. So if you compare the two, you can't do this with the Action 5. You don't have the ability to change aperture, or you're stuck with sort of the f2.8 lens, I believe, and obviously everything is in focus with the Action 5. You don't get that sense of depth of field or more creative choices like you do with the 6. You also get the film tones on the Action 6, which you don't have on the Action 5, which is actually a really easy way to get nice colours straight out of camera. You don't have to worry about colour correction, don't have to worry about shooting in D-Log-M, and you don't have to worry about colour grading. So yeah, it's a big plus there for the Action 6, and one that you should consider if you like having your footage, using your footage straight out of camera without tweaking it. So yeah, big advantage for the Action 6 there. These new film tones I'm quite liking. We're at WT, using WT here at 70%. So that's my go-to at the moment. I haven't experimented too much with the others, but I've got another video on that which I can link up above. So yeah, have a look at that one if you're interested. I touched upon it, but if you shoot across multiple platforms and you create varied content, then the Action 6 is the obvious one to go for, in my opinion, with the square sensor and the ability to have better low light performance, and the sensor just generally copes in different scenarios, different shooting conditions better, in my opinion. So now, why might the 5 be the obvious choice? If you're not too bothered about what I've just spoken about, then the 5 is the obvious choice. It's a tried and tested camera. At the moment, it's been a couple of year or so of everyone putting through its paces, and what a great camera the 5 is. Not was, it still is. The Action 5 Pro is still a fantastic camera. D-Log-M, great stabilization. I mean, all the stuff I've just mentioned, apart from the variable aperture and the film tones, yeah, the Action 5 works really well in all those scenarios. But I think the main thing at the moment, because of the Action 6 has just come out, the Action 5 Pro is at a huge discount, so you get better value for money, which can be important to other people. And if you're not completely fussed about getting the latest action camera from DJI, the Action 6, then go for the Action 5 or even the Action 4. The Action 5 Pro is, as I just said, it's on a great discount at the moment. I think you can get it for £250 or somewhere around that. So, and similar in dollars as well. That's about it. Vlogmas Day 4. See you tomorrow for the next one. Yeah, thanks for popping by.